Hello, and welcome back to the webinar. My name is Jae Wilson. You can reach me at jae@OnyxRepoJae.com. In this series, I'm talking about the JET Data Manager, measures, and business functions. In the last webinar, we took a look at measures, and we talked about the different kinds of measures, standard, derived, and calculated. And I showed you in the last webinar that actually, if you have business functions already installed, you'll see it here. And if you don't, well, we need to talk about how to go ahead and get that installed. So the process is actually pretty easy. In the JET Data Manager, up here on the Tools tab, you would choose Import Business Functions. Now the business functions are it's an XML document that you get when you download and install the JET installation files. So if you're familiar with the installation process, within the zip file there are 4 different folders. Under Required, we have the business functions library. And you can go ahead and double click that, select all the business functions, and that's literally all it takes to add the library to the JET Data Manager. From here, the challenge becomes, okay, well, how do I use it? If I want to write my own business functions, right, you do have the option to create your own business functions or SQL snippets. These are options that you have. I'm not going to get into that because I'm working off the assumption that, like most of us, you don't have MDX experience. But if you do, you can create your own business functions and share them with people. But in any event, let's just work with what we've got here. I'll tell you right away, these blue guys, these are all business functions. And as you're getting started with your JET projects, I highly recommend just right-clicking them and taking a look at what is it? What does it do? How does it work? In this instance, we can see, okay, I'm looking at the periods to date business function. It does have its own name. It is looking at a specific set of data. But, you know, as we go through it and look at it, we can say, okay, this is what Jae was talking about when he said it's parameterized. I can click a drop-down and I can choose stuff. So let's go ahead and take a look at doing, instead of doing year-to-date, since that's already set up, what if I wanted to know what happened last year, you know, as a comparison? I want to see current year-to-date, and I want to see previous year-to-date side by side. Well, I'm going to start by creating a business function. I'll look at time. I'm going to look at a parallel period. In this case, I'm going to look at the previous year. So I'll say, all right, well, I want to look at I'll use the date hierarchy. I'll go back 1 year. Then I'm going to use the same hierarchy, date YQMD. And then, pull this up so you can see, I'm sorry. And then I just have to choose the measure in question. In this case, I'm going to use net change. So theoretically, this should be pretty straightforward. I'm not going to lie, sometimes it is guess and check. You'll just put in the values as they make sense. Date hierarchy level tells me that I want to go back a year. The distance that I want to go back is 1 year. I'm using the hierarchy date YQMD, and then I'm comparing the measure net change. Okay, so let me actually rename this. I'll call it net change previous year. Okay, so that will work nicely side by side with net change. And if I want to do previous year to date, then I'll say, okay, let me use time. I'm going to use year to date, and I'll do net change previous year to date. Okay, what hierarchy am I going to use? I'll do date YQMD, and I'm going to show, let me pull this up so you can see. All right, I'll have date hierarchy, date YQMD, and then for the measure, I'm going to use the measure I just created, net change previous year. So I have two measures at work here. I have one measure that says, if today is January 31st, 2014, then using net change previous year, what was the same value on January 31st, 2013? Okay. And then I have another measure that I'll use for the previous year to date, which will work in months form. Like what's year to date for March or May or April? Okay. When I create a new measure, you have to deploy and execute your cubes, so I'll go ahead and do that. And while that's running, we're going to go ahead and switch over to Excel. Okay, sorry about that interruption there. Okay. So the Jet Data Manager finished deploying and executing my finance cube. I will go into our cube in question, refresh my cube. All right, take a look at what we've got. So under finance transactions on that fact table, we have net change and net change year to date. That previously existed. And if I take a quick look at this, let's just look at what we've got going on here. I'm analyzing by account category, and then I'm showing net change and net change year to date. And what I really want to emphasize is that, as you can see here, net change just says, okay, what happened in each individual month, and then net change year to date, of course, says what happened year to date. Okay, that part is pretty obvious. I'm now going to add in my measures for net change previous year and net change previous year to date. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my filters here to show let me just show Q2 of 2014 and Q2 of 2015, so I have some numbers that I can see side by side. Okay? As I look here, I see, okay, here's net change year to date in 2014, and there's net change previous year, 2014. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Right, I get that side-by-side comparison. Now, because I only did my roll-up to the year level instead of at the periods level, I cannot expand out and show it out by months. That won't be accurate. But this should give you an idea of how you can use a Jet Data Manager in conjunction with your business functions that you installed by using import business functions and finding the XML file. And then you can use all this, again, to create the different kinds of calculated measures that we need to play with as we modify our cubes. Again, my name is Jae Wilson, and you can reach me at jae@onyxreporting.com. Thank you so much for joining us. Cheers.